Hello and welcome back to a new watercolor video. Today I'm going to be doing this painting. Now I did already paint this and I don't like it, so I'm going to do it again. I'm just going to refine it a little bit. See, I like how this one turned out, where it's got this lighter part here. I don't like this bit here. It looks quite flat, whereas this one looks more rounded, and I don't like the underneath. So I'm going to do it all again, and yeah, you can download that on my Patreon page for free if you want to paint along and you don't want to draw the outlines yourself. So I've got the outlines on here. They're very, very faint, but I can see them. So I'm going to do this layer by layer. So we'll do the base layer, dry it, the next layer, dry it, the next layer, dry it. We're going to do that. So today is going to be layering. I'm going to use Daniel Smith again. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to mix up some new Gamboge and some Aussie red gold for the first layer. And I'm going to start by wetting the whole of the tree area just with clear water. I mean, there's a little bit of colour still on the brush, but that's fine. And then when I get to this area here where the line is between the trees, I'm just going to leave a few little white flecks. So I'll leave some tiny little bits of the paper dry, and then the paint won't run into those little bits. The paint will only spread into the wet areas. I'm going to lift out the little puddle area here at the bottom. Don't need that much water. So next I'm going to get some new Gamboge on my brush and just drop that in the whole of the wet area, and it should just take it up to the edge and it'll just spread out. I'm going to get the Aussie red gold and drop that in now, mainly to the right hand side. Really dark to this side of the trees to make this highlighted area show up even more on the next tree. I'm going to get a little bit of kitchen paper and just carefully lift out some of the paint along the edge to make those areas even lighter. That's layer one. I'm going to dry that with the heat gun, and then we'll move on to layer two. Okay, layer two. Now we'll do this tree by tree. So I'm going to wet the whole tree again with some clear water. I'm just kind of being careful not to agitate the paint underneath. Just very softly put that water down, and then I'm going to skip this tree, do this one, and do this little one underneath. And I'm going to mix up some Quin burnt orange and I'm going to mix some red into that. So I'm using Pyrrol Scarlet, but just use whatever red you've got. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. So this is just the round number 3. This tree is dried a bit, so I'm just going to add a little bit more water into that. I'm going to get some of the red mixture and drop it in all around the middle area and down the right hand side and the bottom. And just let it spread out. But we want to keep the edge nice and light, and then put some extra down this side, nice and deep, to make this one stand out. I'm going to lift this out because I didn't want that to run into there, so I'm lifting that bit back out. And I'm just going to kind of blend that a little bit. Just dabbing a bit out to keep those edges light. So I'll dry that off and do the same with the middle one. So if you're new to watercolour, the reason why I left the middle one is because if we wet them all at the same time and their edges touch, the colour will just spread. It would just spread throughout it all. So this is kind of a way of controlling that. Right, now I'm going to add some more red to like really brighten it up. So wet the whole thing again. I'm going to get some kitchen towel and just take out some of the water on the edge. We don't want it to be completely dry, but the red will spread, so we don't need to spread too far. I'm going to go right in to the Pyrrol Scarlet and just get some of that on the brush. And we just want it kind of around the middle area. Let it spread up a little bit. Now I'm covering this in brown, so it doesn't matter if it doesn't go all the way down. I've cleaned the brush off and I'm just going to do a little bit of blending.
Easy rider on the highway, station wagon going slow, windows open, you are basking in the bluegrass radio. It is easy now to see you with your hand out on the wind. I keep this folded at the corner so that I could not forget.
Now I do want it to be a little bit more orange looking, so I'm going to mix up some more Aussie Red Gold and I'm going to do a glaze of Aussie Red Gold over the top of the whole thing. Now it is quite a lot of layers. Lots of layers is quite effective, so I won't go right up to the edge. I'm going to make it a little bit jaggedy on that edge and then just pin a layer
so that I could not forget. Pink azaleas by your driveway, shade our leisurely goodbyes, in your terry cotton sweater.
So make taking up some burnt umber and some sepia. So we want the sepia to be fairly strong. I'm going to get some of the burnt umber on the brush and I'm going to paint it in across the bottom.
Sweeping the sky. It was then I had a knowing. You were waving till the bend. I keep this.
I'm washing the brush out, getting all the excess moisture out of the brush. And I'm going to just rub along that line. So I've added a little bit more water. So I'm just defining the bottom of all of these trays.
So that I could not forget. Folded at the corner. So that I could not forget.
That's just a little bit of a guide of where we don't want, when we add the sepia, we don't want it to go kind of any further than these little bits that we've just put on. So I'm just going to dry that. I'm going to wet most of the tree again. I'm going to leave the bottom part dry. Then I'm going to get the sepia and I'm going to drop it in right at the bottom on that dry patch and let it like seep into the water. Just put a few little patches in there, a little bit further up. And then just do the same for all of them. I'm actually gonna change the shape of this tree. It's not quite right, so I'm just going over the edge, adding a little bit of extra there. Then I'm actually getting the sepia right from the pan where it's nice and strong. Make it a little bit jaggedy at the bottom. Now, just make sure the water doesn't touch this area where it's still wet. And the same here, as long as we don't allow the water to touch this wet area, they won't run into each other. Dry that off. Now I'm going to get a little bit of sepia, quite dry on the brush, so it's really not too wet. And I'm just gonna do a little dry brush effect at the bottom. Just slightly go over that bottom line with the dry brush, and then maybe a little bit more further up. Now I'm going to get some clean water on the brush, and this is the small brush. And I'm going to rub on this area. I'm going to cover most of the white bits. We don't want too many, just a few tiny little flecks. Just want to bring that edge out a little bit more. So to keep on washing the brush and dabbing it off, just to lift some of that paint out along the edge. Get a little bit of darker colour just to define this a little bit more here. Now I'm going to add the tree trunks, so we want some really dark sepia, and I'm going to use tiny brush. That's a 5/0 liner brush, and now I'm just going to really carefully paint in the trunks. So we're going to do a few trunks just to make it look like a few trees all gathered together in a clump. And then we'll do some branches going into the trees. Actually, I'm going to stop because I need to put some background in and it's going to make that paint run. So don't do that until we've done the little background bit. I forgot about that. So I've got a little bit of really watery indigo on the brush, and I'm going to add it here across the background. Try not to touch that I put on there. Then I've washed the brush and I'm going to go along the edge and lift quite a bit of that out and just make a bit of jaggedy earth in the background. And wash the brush again, lift some of it out. Now we'll build up the grass bank underneath. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of Serpentine Genuine, don't need much. I'm going to use a little bit of the new Gamboge from earlier, and I'm going to paint it right across the top here. And then get the Serpentine Genuine and blend that in there across the bottom, but just take it down to the line here. And then a little bit right out here. Clean the brush and then just sort of kind of rub that there. So we want the edges to be fairly even. Let's lift a bit of that out, don't want a harsh edge. And get a little bit stronger Serpentine Genuine on the end of the brush and drag a bit across here, across the bottom. Okay, so that's our grass verge. Dry that. Then I'm going to get a little bit of that indigo here. I'm going to put that here as though it's like water. Don't want it to be that strong, so I'm going to lift some of that back out. And I'm going to get some of the Aussie red gold and just had a little hint there, as though it's just a little bit of reflection from some of the trees. So I'm going to try and lift that bit out. Don't want them to kind of mix that much. Back up to the tree trunks now. little bit of a struggle with that brush. It's good for the long strokes, but you can't kind of get the end bit in, so I'm switching to a little number 0 round just to get the bottom part of those trunks in. Also gonna create some little shadows under the trees. I'm going to put a line across here just to define the edge of this kind of like riverbank. Just kind of rough. Maybe a little bit of water to blend that out a little bit. Oh, just put a few little, oops, oh god, it's too thick. Don't want big thick lines like that. Try and lift that back out and put some tiny little branches. I think I'll add a few birds as well. I'll just take a look at it. I think I need to just do a little bit more work on the trees. So I'm going to get the round brush and I'm gonna try and lift some out of this side to give it more of a round appearance. I think that helps a little bit. Oops. Yeah, take a little bit out over the top. Gonna add a little bit more colour just to the grass here, so a little bit of the new Gamboge, and I'm gonna add a little bit of rich green gold just to brighten that green up a little bit. It's just looking a little bit dull. And darken some of them birds. I'm just using the indigo for this. Okay, I think I'm just going to leave it like that. Yeah, I'll compare it to the older one. Okay, so this is them side by side. Actually, I like the red. This is a lot more red. Should I add more red? I think I might. I'll try and add a little bit more red, only in like a dry brush effect. So I'm just gonna go on the side of my brush and just add just kind of to the middle area. Okay, so there we go. I think I'll leave it at that. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll have another video up on Friday.